I'm also never going to be ashamed of being a martial artist that's telling martial arts stories because it's ours. Why should we'll feel ashamed of it?
What do you see as the future of martial arts cinema?
I know this is a little bit weird considering I just directed a wuxia film, but I think the future of martial arts cinema is to go back into our history, because martial arts cinema for ever since its inception really has been going off of martial arts novels and the Peking opera for its inspirations for the most part, with like some things taken from history or pseudo history for its inspirations in both technique and in stories. And I think that the future of martial arts cinema is to go back into our history and try and tell not more authentic stories, because I think the stories we have are authentic, but tell more grounded stories about Chinese, especially Chinese martial arts history. And as for martial arts cinema as a whole, I think that fighting back against the tide of doing things cheaply, doing things as quickly as possible with as little training required, is going to be the struggle that all martial arts cinema and all people that are passionate about it are facing and are going to face in the future. And just sort of standing firm against that tide and like fighting for our art, which is what martial arts is. It's our art.
Do you ever find, as somebody with an Asian identity, I sometimes see other Asian creatives get annoyed or frustrated at martial arts films, or when there's, or like Shang-Chi, because they get frustrated because it's got martial arts in it. How do you respond to that?
I think that a lot of Asian creatives, I can understand their frustration. For a long time, it's felt that the only way we can get any representation in media is through martial arts, and to the point where the Asian martial artist has become quite a stereotype in the West. I can understand that frustration and the feeling that we need to have a more, and I agree that we should have more diverse stories out there. Asians, Asian Americans, all sorts of all parts of the Asian diaspora. We should have stories. We should have Western stories that are allowed to be any kind of story. We shouldn't be confined just to making martial arts films or action films just because we're Asian. Because we shouldn't settle for that. We shouldn't, I don't think that Asian creatives should settle for anything, but I also think that we should not be ashamed of martial arts cinema. It's our heritage. These are our martial arts. And the genres like the wuxia genre are our genres that we invented. And if Westerners are going to try and place us in a box because of our heritage, our genres, the stories that let many of us rise to prominence in media, then I don't think that we should be ashamed of that. So I guess sorry if that answer was kind of long. I acknowledge that we do need more diverse stories, but I'm also never going to be ashamed of being a martial artist that's telling martial arts stories because it's ours. Why should we'll feel ashamed of it?
And also, I think as long as we get more say in the writing and we get to write these Asian characters, especially if they do martial arts, and not make them reductionist, it will be better, as long as like the story is in more of our hands.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that when you're telling a story about Asian martial arts, Asian history, Asian culture, it's a no-brainer to have Asian people in charge, regardless of whether it's a martial arts film or not. And one of the reasons why I think a lot of people are frustrated with martial arts films is that they feel like one kind of film, when martial arts cinema has the ability to be extremely diverse and tell many different kinds of stories. And I think that it takes a little bit of opening one's mind to be able to see that and looking beyond just the most popular martial arts films and the most the most expensive ones too. But yeah, I totally agree with you. The more of us that are in the pilot seat, the better the stories will be, and no matter what those stories actually are, I think.
And martial arts cinema is very global. It does resonate with other communities, can resonate with anybody.
Absolutely. I think that's another reason why we shouldn't be ashamed of martial arts, because I'm going to always be an advocate to preserve martial arts, especially in its most historically authentic ways. And one of the reasons why martial arts cinema is good, I think a lot of people in the martial arts community don't like martial arts films because they portray martial arts in a certain way and give a lot of people false expectations. But the way I see it, the more people are interested in learning about martial arts, the better. And nothing has been better for promoting the martial arts than martial arts cinema has. I can't tell you how many people became interested in martial arts after told me they first became interested in martial arts because they saw Jet Li's Shaolin, or any sort of Jackie Chan movie, or any sort of Hong Kong martial arts cinema, or The Raid, or Raid 2, or any martial arts film from anywhere. And the power of martial arts as a cultural unifier, as a cultural inspiration to others, no matter where the martial art itself is from or where the film itself is from, we definitely shouldn't discount the power of that.
Sorry, I went off on a tangent just for, I like to hear other Asian creatives' thoughts on this particular subject, because my brain is like sometimes just very confused between all the opinions.
No, I totally get it. I've gone through I've reflected on that a lot myself, because there was a time where I thought, like, well, I'm an Asian creative. Do I have a responsibility to not make martial arts films because there's so many? I had to ask myself, why should I feel ashamed of it? Just because we should want more stories doesn't mean we should give up the ones that we have. That's sort of the conclusion I arrived at. And it's definitely like something that's really easy to like really get lost in your mind about, and I still do all the time. But when I try to look at the work I do more simply, I just want to tell the stories that I want to tell and promote the martial arts that I want to promote. Maybe things are easier if I look at it in those simple terms. I don't know.
My brain was so confused for so long, because I'm always worried that if I'm like projecting stereotypes, but I'm also a person,
right?
I'm a real life person, and because I had purple hair streaks,
right.
And it's a bad trope in cinema, but I really wanted it in real life because I really liked it. But I have to remember, I'm a person, not a character, right. And I'm three-dimensional.
Right, exactly. And being an Asian person doing martial arts, I went through a lot of those same things. I was wondering if I was playing up to stereotypes about Asians by being this into martial arts and being this passionate about them. But I mean, just because there are stereotypes about the way we engage with cultural identifiers or just our heritage, that doesn't mean that we should be ashamed of them, I think. And we shouldn't be ashamed of wanting purple hair just because it's viewed as a cliche for Asian characters in films, because that's not our fault.
Yeah.
Like it's not our...
I wasn't rebelling against anything. My parents really my parents were like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I didn't start doing martial arts to avenge anyone's death. I just really like history. Yeah. So,
And last question before speed round. How has your experience been with Fighting Spirit Film Festival?
I mean, it's been great so far. Everyone at Fighting Spirit was super nice to me about how to get my work shown at the festival. I was really sad that I couldn't actually make it there physically for the festival because of travel and me being located in the United States. And I really tried very hard. Even despite that, I still had a very positive experience with the festival, and everyone there was really, really nice to me.
Now, time for the speed round. You pick one film for each category. What film has the best soundtrack?
Ooh, Princess Mononoke.
What is your current favorite film?
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
What is the next film you're going to watch?
Next film I'm going to watch? A Touch of Zen.
If someone wanted to get to know you, what film would you recommend?
Either Weathering with You.
And lastly, which cinematic universe would you like to live in?
I'm gonna have to be boring and say Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon again, or any wuxia, like high wuxia or ciencia film, because it would be awesome to live in a world where you could fly with you could do light body techniques with your chi. I definitely know that I would want to live in any sort of wuxia world that runs on wuxia rules, because I've always loved that aesthetic, and it would be awesome to live in a world where everyone could just move like they were on wires.
I love high concept fantasy.
Oh yeah. I love high concept stuff like ciencia too. I was drawn more to wuxia, which is more of the like light fantasy, which has more light fantasy elements. I mean, high fantasy, I feel like it would be worse to live in, because that means that like demons and stuff exist, which is kind of scary. I'm not that brave.
Well, thank you for the interview.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.